let's see what else we got. Pattern stamp tool, I never use that, so I'm not going to go and deal with that. What's this? Don't use the history brush tool. Eraser. Yes, I use the eraser. Now if you have an image like, for example, this image here, if I have an image and you start erasing on this image, you go to this checker mark, which is, it shows the checkers are telling you that that's transparent, and you're just erasing it into nothing. There's nothing there now. If I went to my upper layer here, which is a transparent layer, and I turn the lower layer off, you'll see that's a transparent layer. And if I painted on this, let's get something with some color here. If I painted on this with something that we can see, you know, this is being painted on it's almost like being painted on glass. As you can see through what was transparent to the image below. So by erasing that, you're erasing and exposing nothing, because there's nothing there underneath. Now you can do the same thing with the eraser that you can do with a brush. Bring the opacity down and you can just kind of erase stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a layer, put it on the back here. We'll make that, we'll fill it with white, so that when I erase, you'll see. So I'm erasing at 27%. I erased at 50%. There's more. If I erased at 100%, it goes completely to white because I'm revealing the white sheet underneath. Okay. And again, just like the brush, you can use different shapes, different styles, a lot of different stuff. Let's see if we can find one here. That's interesting. Something like this. This is a weird shape. But again, if you want to erase something, you don't want to have hard edges. You want to have something a little bit scrappier like this. Then just use a different shape. And it's great fun. I mean, I'd suggest that you've got to practice as much as you can. But of course, there's all these choices. You can have the hard edge here if you're erasing something mechanical or a building, and you want to get right in here. But you go beyond here. You'd start with that, and then you go in here with the marquee tool and just kind of select it out. So it's a combination of a lot of these tools. You have to use them in combination with one another. I don't use these other tools, these other eraser tools. Let's go over to the paint bucket tool. Paint bucket tool is basically, let's use this marquee tool. You want to fill this in with. Sorry. Marquee tool. You want to fill this in with blue. Just click anywhere inside this selection here with the paint bucket tool. There it is. It's like throwing a bunch of paint on there, but it's being contained within this selection. If I didn't have this selection, and I just went right onto the image here, it would start to fill in certain sections. Right. Same thing with the tolerance. If I went down to 10, I go like that. Oops, does the whole thing. If I went to 100, or let's say 90, it does the whole thing again. I would thought it would be doing something different, but it isn't. Anyway, well, if you, what I do is if I want to, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. Here we go. 90. And I hit this. It's going to select more. It's kind of cool, that. Down to 10 on the tolerance, and just a little bit. So 90 more, or higher number is more, lower number is less. All right, just make sure you're on the right layer. So that's a paint bucket tool. If you want to just cover up the whole thing, obviously you go to another layer and just click on it. All right. It's a paint bucket tool. Next one is a gradient tool. I'll click a layer above it. Gradient tool is fun because it gives you nice gradations. Here we have the selections here. I always use this one because this will be the color I choose, and I can control the gradient. So say if my gradient is red, let's do something extreme, and I pull, there's these 5 choices here, so we'll start with the left choice, which is your standard gradient. Just pull down. Okay. If you hold the shift key down and you pull down, it's just going to be straight. Or holding the shift key to the left or the right, it's going to be straight. If you choose the next one over here, this is very sourcey, meaning it comes from a single source. Next one over. This is a weird one. I never use this one. I never ever use that one. That's what that one does. This one's good for horizon, atmosphere. If you're doing horizon, for example, you want to hold the shift key down and then pull it down, and it just does the middle. Or down, both sides from the middle, from the central point. And then the last one, I never use this one either. It's this weird diamond. So the ones I use are the far left one. Sometimes, well, the far left one is a linear gradient. I use that. I use the radial gradient, second from the left, and I use the reflected gradient, which is the second from the right. The angle gradients and the diamond gradient I don't use. I just haven't had a need to use it for the work I do. So that's gradients, and again, you can mess around with your opacity on that, but I just do it 100%, and then I'll change my on a single layer, and then I'll just change my opacity here, down on the here in the layer stack. Okay, so that's gradients and the paint bucket tool. Let's go over here. Blur tool. This is really handy. Again, I've got this set on the upper left here. I've got it set on the airbrush. I'm going to just pump this all the way up to 100 on the strength. You can vary the blurriness, obviously, from 1 to 100. So let's zoom in here and see. Let's get something sharp here, like that. And hit it with the blur tool. Oh, guess what? I'm on the wrong layer again. Let's try it again. There you go. So there's your blur tool, blurring. Obviously great with things like, for example, if I had a tight shot of her and I just wanted her head to be in focus, then I use a blur tool, blur everything else out. You can do it by hand. There's other ways, obviously, of blurring. We can get into filters and everything, but for something quick, you want to mess around with shallow depth of field. The blur tool is great. The blur tool is great for assisting you in learning depth of field and what works and what doesn't work in terms of sharpness and shallow depth of field and deep depth of field, all that stuff. So that's a blur tool, and you can, like I said, you can vary the strength up here. Under the blur tool, we've got the sharpen tool, and this is great. Again, strength, let's bang it up to 100. Let's try a texture on the ground here. See, it'll go nuts at 100. So you want to start around 50, 47, 50. You sharpen it up a little bit. You don't want to go crazy. I don't know if you can see it, but I certainly can see it. I'm on a Wacom tablet, and the sharpen and the blur tool are responsive to the pressure on the pen. So the more I press down on it, the more it's going to get blurrier, the more it's going to get sharper. So that's a sharpen tool again, varying the strength. Smudge tool. This is basically what you see here. It's like you're smudging with your finger. Let's smudge her face. We're at 50% strength. Ooh. Let's go down to 20. Let's go down to 8. So I'm doing it a little bit. I'm just touching it now with my stylus. You can just keep it in there and just kind of, it does a similar kind of blurry look. The smudge tool is good for if you're doing battling warriors and you've got weapons flying around, whacking into people. You want some blurriness. The smudge tool is actually, you would start with the blur tool, but then closer in you would hit it with the smudge tool, just slightly, and it just gives it that nice pull that you get from swinging objects. So those are those tools: blur, sharpen, smudge tool. This is the dodge and the burn tool. Dodge tool makes things lighter. It's just all from photography. So if I wanted to go over here and make this even lighter, so bring this out a bit more. I'm not losing. I'm actually bringing the texture lightness out. I'm not airbrushing over it. If I airbrushed over it, I would be losing the texture. So it's holding the balance of the lightness and darkness. It's just bringing it up. That's the dodge, and then you've got your exposure here. You can boom it all the way up to the 100, and it'll be dramatic. Next one is the burn tool. Does the opposite. Not a great fan of the burn tool, though I do use it now and then. It has a weird, whereas the dodge tool will bring up the I don't really know how to put it, the tones that you see. The burn tool, it makes things dark, but it actually looks like it's burned. I mean, it's got some weird coloring that goes on, so I use that not too generously. I'm very wary of that. I use other means, but it does help now and then to use the burn tool. Anyway, you know it's there. Dodge and burn. Sponge. Love the sponge tool. For example, let's go in here. Got the flow at 50%. Let's go all the way up to 100. what the sponge tool does is it's like a sponge. And it desaturates or saturates the image. So here we'll work on this. That's desaturating it. The more you hit it, the more it just goes. Here you've got your flow 100. Here you got, that was desaturate. Click it, bring down to saturate. This will pump it up, do the complete opposite. Oh, come on. Try it again. There we go. But it you know, if you're at 100, it's going to go into crazy world, you know. So you've got to. It's always good to be down around the 50s, and then kind of work it up gently. I don't use saturate too much, just now and then, depending on obviously the image and what I'm trying to achieve. But there you are, you've got saturate and desaturate for the sponge tool. Dodge, burn, sponge. Now the pen tool, all these tools here, I don't really use them too much. The pen tool I started to use for selections where you hit an anchor point, hit another anchor point, and you can curve these selections. So you can make accurate selections. Okay, let's do it again. You can make these great accelerated curves, very organic, and they can be quite accurate. So here's this curve here. Then you can hit selection right here on the upper left. It's going to follow this path. This is a path. Feather radius, I just leave it like that. Okay, and then from this you can go to stroke, edit, stroke, and say you want this to be a red line at 6 pixels. There you are. Okay. So that's a pen tool. I'm not going to go with the others because I don't use the others. This is the type tool, horizontal type tool. Be nice if you could, maybe there's a hotkey for enlarging it. I'll just go up to here. So with the type tool, here's your type style. This is Myriad Pro, regular. You got bold, condense, italic. Let's do italic. And here's a size. Let's go up to 36, and you start typing. Right. And then if you like it, you hit the check mark. If you don't like it, you hit this. Okay. I did like it, but I don't want to see it anymore. So that's the type tool. I don't use any of these others. This allows you to type vertically. I don't use these masks. Okay. Again, I'm just showing you what I use. I don't use this. And over here is the line tool. I use that a lot. Here's the weight. Let's do 10. And there's your line tool. Now, obviously with any of this stuff you can have your line tool and then you can manipulate it in transform. I just finished a tutorial on the transform tool, so take a look at that. The line tool is great. So that is a line tool. Almost done here. This hand is, it basically moves, and like if you're zoomed in and you want to see I want to see the robot, for example, I just go there to hand and move. It's just like you would just move it. It's pretty straightforward. Rotate view tool, I never use that. This magnifying glass is exactly what it is. It's got a plus mark right here, and if I click on it, and it'll go in. But what CS6 does, I don't know how far back it has done it, but I can go left on my stylus, or right, left, right. Once you get down in here, you get these pixelated, this pixel grid, which is, you can get rid of the pixel grid somewhere. Show pixel grid away. Okay, so it's gone. So that's the magnifying tool, and that's it for that. And these are your palettes right here. You know, you can choose when you're doing paint, you just move this around. This will give you RGB right here. This is what I concentrate on, these numbers here if I'm trying to match. RGB right here. And then you can flop to the other one. And so that is just a basic overview of the tools in Photoshop. I hope that helped you and helped you get started. And it's pretty powerful software, and just keep practicing, and have a lot of fun, come up with some great stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.